Tadekam smaramas-tadekam bhajamaha. Tadekam jagat sakshi rupam namamaha. Sadekam nidhanam niradambamisham bhavam bodhipotam sharanyam rajamaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. On that alone do we meditate, that alone do we worship, to that alone, the witness of the universe, do we bow. To that one who is our sole eternal support, the self-existent Lord, the raft to safety across the ocean of this world, do we come for refuge. Om, peace. Peace, peace. Good morning. Nice to see all of you. Today is a sandwich day, you can say. We had Holy Mother's birthday just on celebrated last weekend, and actual day was Wednesday. And coming up in just a few days, the day after tomorrow is Christmas Eve. So we have these 2 days to observe the advent of spiritual giants coming to this earth to teach us. And today is the birthday of Swami Shivananda, Mahapurush Maharaj, one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, the monastic disciples, who was a monk, one of the presidents of our order. And Mahapurush means a great soul. He was truly a great soul, a fully illumined soul, a saint maker. And so we're sandwiched by these two on the days. And then today also is the first day of Hanukkah, the festival of light in the Jewish tradition. So I wish all of us the blessings of this day, of the birthday of Mahapurush Maharaj, and the blessing of light. May the light shine within. So these holy days are, of course, they are important, and we make something special about them. And Swami Swahanandaji used to say that on the birthdays of the great souls, there's a little bit of more manifestation of their vibration. We can seek their grace and yet, at the same time, isn't every day holy? Isn't every day an equal opportunity to experience the divine, to know the divine? Isn't every day an opportunity to step into the light of grace, as we heard in this beautiful song, the opening song, a very moving song? We can step into the light of grace every day and every moment. And that is what my topic is about today. It's about, I took the topic, own the day. Can we own the day? What does it mean? It actually comes from a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, the transcendentalist. We can say he was one of those who paved the way for Swami Vivekananda to come to the West. And in one of his lectures, which he first gave in 1857, I'm just going to read a short excerpt from this talk. He says, "He only is rich who owns the day. He only is rich, he only is wealthy who owns the day. There is no king, rich man, fairy, or demon who possesses such power as that. The days are ever divine." What a compelling idea that we can, to own the day. What does it mean to own the day, to make it our own? Do we own the days, or do the days own us, mostly? Mostly, I fear it may be the latter. He talks a little bit more about what these days are. He says, they are of the least pretension, the days, and of the greatest capacity of anything that exists. They come and go, like muffled and veiled figures sent from a distant friendly party. But they say nothing. And if we do not use the gifts they bring, they carry them as silently away. This wonderful idea that the days are actually bringing us gifts. They are a gift in themselves. And yet, if we don't accept that gift, if we don't recognize it, then they carry that gift away. There's one more passage. Such are the days. The earth is the cup, and the sky the lid, the cover of the immense bounty of nature, which is offered to us for our daily aliment, our daily nourishment. But what a force of illusion begins life with us and attends us to the end. We are coaxed, flattered, and duped from morn to eve, from birth to death. And where is the old eye that ever saw through the deception? Emerson was influenced very much by his study of Vedanta, and he called this deception Maya, as we do in Vedanta also. There's something about a day. This earth is rotating on its axis, and so we have our days. The sun rises every day and it sets every evening. Actually, of course, it doesn't move. The earth is moving, but for our purposes, the sun rises and sets, and we too, our biology has evolved in this realm, so we too rise with the morning and set with the evening. And you can say it's the natural unit of time. The natural unit of our time is a day. And Emerson recognizes something about that, and let's look a little more at what he's talking about here. What does it mean to own the day? He gives these hints. The days are ever divine, of least pretension and greatest capacity. What capacity does a day hold for us? Tremendous capacity. We have the capacity to experience our true nature, the divine, every single day. It's not a matter for tomorrow, it's a matter for today. And they carry us these gifts, but it is up to us to make use of them. And he closes this passage like this: an everlasting now reigns in nature, an everlasting now. One of the illusions is that the present hour is not the critical, decisive hour. Write it on your heart that every day is the best day of the year. You know, there's two popular songs. Yesterday by the Beatles, no? Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it seems they've come here to stay. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. It's a very catchy song, and it's one of the great tunes by the Beatles. And it's wrong. It's not Vedantic at all. It's wrong, okay? Most of us, we do like this. We think, oh, yesterday, we're living in the past, right? There's another famous song. I grew up on it. Maybe it's not quite so well known. There was a musical called Annie. And those of you who are a little bit maybe over 50 would remember it. And there's the song, Tomorrow, right? And the line goes, tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you, tomorrow, you're always a day away. So when you're stuck with a day that's gray and lonely, you just stick out your chin and grin and say, tomorrow is coming, tomorrow will be better. It's a very catchy song. We used to sing it as kids. It's very nice. It's wrong, okay? It's wrong. Let's get that straight. This is not according to Vedanta. This is popular psychology or something. Yeah, when you feel down, just think tomorrow is going to be better. All right? Or, yeah, you're down, well, yesterday was better and today is a bummer, right? So this is not owning the day. This is living in yesterday and living for tomorrow. Living for tomorrow, we're not owning our day. Living for today. There must be a song. Is there? I couldn't think of one. Any song, Living for Today? We can look it up. One of our Googlers can look it up. So these songs, I mean, they're so popular. It reflects the obsession that almost all of us have with the past, that which is already gone, and the future, that which is yet to come. So this is right now, right here. Every day is the best day in the year. Every day. On the day. Even in the midst of suffering, we can say, well, I'm suffering today. Still, it's actually the only day we have, so that makes it the best day. In fact, the greatest part of suffering is this fear that it's going to keep coming and keep coming. If we are thinking about, I'm suffering now and it's going to be suffering tomorrow, well, that's going to make us suffer more. If we attend to the suffering and just let it be. Every day we have a tremendous opportunity to be who we really are. To express that, to manifest that. What is that? That infinite divine reality, which is who we are. Every day is a tremendous opportunity to realize that, to manifest it through every word, through every action, through every interaction, every thought, and every moment that is free from thought. So this illusion, this Maya, dupes us, as it were, and hides us. We fail to see the tremendous gift that the days bring us, that every moment brings us. So we were talking about a sandwich, how this day is like a sandwich. Actually, every moment is like a sandwich. This present moment is like a sandwich between the past and the future. And what we are being asked to do, when sometimes maybe as kids we got a sandwich and we didn't like the bread, so we just eat the filling of the sandwich. Maybe it's a peanut butter and jam, we just lick off the filling and throw out the bread, or just eat the bologna or whatever's in there. We have to do that, okay? Our present moment is sandwiched between the past and the future. We just have to get rid of the past and the future and eat the filling of the sandwich, which is this present moment. So, Swami Vivekananda puts it this way. He says, all the past and all the future are here in the present. No man or woman ever saw the past. Did any of you see the past? He asks. Did any of you see the past? When you think you are knowing the past, you only imagine the past in the present moment. We're imagining the past in the present. To see the future, you would have to bring it down to the present, which is the only reality. The rest is imagination. This present is all that is. There is only the one. He brings it.
Speaking of songs about right now, there's a song called Right Now by Van Halen.
Van Halen, Right Now.
The lyrics are actually
Van Halen's a little bit rough for us, I think.
No, the lyrics are actually very appropriate.
Beautiful Day by U2.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll check those out. So let's go back to Swami Vivekananda here, from Van Halen to Vivekananda. Though both are equally manifestations of the divine, most absolutely. They're manifesting that in slightly different ways. One through the teachings of Vedanta and one through heavy metal music. He says, this present is all that is. Whenever we think of the past, when do we think about it? Right now. We can only think about it right now. And same with the future. If we imagine the future, we have to do it now. We're doing it now. There is only the one. All is here right now. One moment in infinite time is quite as complete and all-inclusive as every other moment. All that is and was and will be is here in the present. Let anybody try to imagine anything outside of it, he or she will not succeed. So he's driving this point home, that it is right now that we experience. And what is that right now? It is none other than the one consciousness. A kind of interesting, I don't know if it's a thought experiment, but I was reading someone describing the t equals 0, time equals 0. T equals 0 is this present moment. It's not in the past, it's not in the future. T equals 0, right now. Say we look at the sun, and we feel the sun's rays falling on our body. Well, the light of the sun takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds on average to reach the earth. So the light that we are experiencing when we even this light that's streaming in through the window here, it's 8 minutes and 20 seconds old. It was created at t equals minus 8 minutes 20 seconds. It's not right now. We're experiencing something that happened 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago, that production of that light. The moon's light takes about 3 seconds to reach the earth. So when we go and walk in the moonlight, and that's a wonderful way to really feel present in the moment. Yet, even then, that moonlight, it took 3 seconds to reach us. We're experiencing a t equals minus 3 seconds. Now, if you take it a little further, and you look at this physical instrument, and the time that it takes for a nerve impulse to pass through the nerves to the brain center and then be presented to the witness consciousness who we are, that also takes time. Nerve impulses pass, it's electrical impulses passing along wires, as it were, nerves. So say we touch something, it takes a few milliseconds. I don't know, a biologist could tell us exactly. From the fingertip to the brain center, or even from the retina. It's a close distance, retina to the brain. But it is a distance. It takes time. So everything we experience, everything we see, everything we taste, everything we touch, by the time we actually see it or taste it or hear it or touch it, it's over. It's in the past. How about that? It's already over. So how can we be in the now if it's already over? And yet, that who we are is the eternal now. Consciousness has no future and no past. Consciousness is right now. Actually, consciousness is that in which time arises. So we're beyond time in our true nature. Swami Vivekananda puts it so eloquently in his letter to Mrs. Olibul. When should be the time for coming or going? When all time is in the soul. Where should be the place to go? When all space is in the soul. So this everlasting now, how can we touch it, and why? First, let's see why would we care about that eternal now? Well, why? Because it sets us free. Don't we feel caught in time? I often feel caught in time. That's why I took up this topic, because it seems like there's never enough time to do what I need to do, and there's too much to do, and always fighting the clock. And then I realized through this kind of study, knowing, being present in the eternal now, knowing that we are the eternal now, sets us free, frees us from the slavery to time, and brings us tremendous peace. We escape the hold of the past over us. We escape the hold that the future has over us. I am, simply I am. Not I am something. I am a man, I am a woman, I am a monk, I am a mother, I am tall, I am short, I am fat, I am thin. No. Just cut off the last part of that sentence. I am. Wonderful. That frees us to engage fully with whatever is before us, whoever is before us, right here and now. So as we cultivate this sense of ourselves as the eternal now, we let our lives unfold within the radiance of that consciousness, that divine consciousness, which is our true self, which is existence, consciousness, bliss, love, peace. So often it seems like we don't have time. And that I was just mentioning that, this feeling of being caught in time. And that there are so many demands on our time. And so everyone is taking our time away. Our boss takes away most of our time. And then our family, our spouses, our children, our parents, our daily duties. We have to do the dishes. It takes a lot of time to do the dishes. And that just takes away our time. So that how much is left for us at the end of the day? Not too much. Darn it. It's very frustrating. Just because we're looking on time as some kind of commodity, and that we have a certain amount of it, and everyone is taking it away from us. But what if every moment were our time? What if when we are working with our boss, we're also realizing that this is also my time? Because I am now. I am the eternal now. Let me give another quote from Emerson. He says, another illusion from this same lecture that he gave, another illusion is that there is not time enough for our work. Back in 1857 they had this problem. Even now we have it worse. He says, a poor Indian chief of the 6 nations of New York made a wiser reply than any philosopher to someone complaining that he had not enough time. Well, said Red Jacket, I suppose you have all there is. When we say, I don't have enough time, a good answer is, well, you have all there is. There's not more time. This is it. But how to have it and not be a slave to it, not be trying to chase it and always grab it? How to make all time our own? By being fully present in the eternal now, awake in the consciousness of our own existence, of our own divinity. I've told this story before, but I love it, of Swami Vivekananda in Northern California. And one of his disciples, Mr. Thomas Allen, relates this incident. Swamiji was going to lecture at Union Square Hall on Post Street in San Francisco. And the lecture was advertised to begin at 3 p.m. And at 3 p.m., of course, the big crowd was gathered. And Mr. Allen was the one who would introduce him to the audience before the lecture. And Swamiji was nowhere to be seen. And they were wondering what to do. And so they finally realized, well, I guess we just have to wait. So they're waiting for Swamiji, and Mr. Allen keeps going out on the street to look for him. Finally, he sees him coming. So I'll read what he says. He says, at last, at about 3:30 p.m., that's half an hour late, about 3:30 p.m., I saw him slowly walking up. I went and met him, he says, and walked with him towards the hall. I said, Swami, don't you know you're late? The audience has been waiting. Swamiji replied, Mr. Allen, I am never late. I have all the time in the world. All time is mine. That's what we're talking about. Mr. Allen, I am never late. I have all the time in the world. All time is mine. Mr. Allen retorted, well, Swami, the audience may not feel the same as you do. But he went on just in the same leisurely pace. And on the way to the hall, they hadn't reached the hall yet, they passed a shoe shine stand. And the Swamiji saw that the shoe shiner was not busy, he was idle, he was just sitting there waiting for a customer. So Swamiji went up, sat down, and had his shoes shined. And Mr. Halen was fidgeting. He says, I was silently fidgeting, thinking about the people who had come to hear the lecture. But my fidgeting did no good. At last, Swami got on the platform and was introduced to the audience, which had more or less patiently waited for him. Of course, I always like to think that it would be, you could wait lifetimes to hear Swami Vivekananda. It would be worth the wait. So a 45-minute wait is nothing. Well, and there's an interesting postscript to this that Mr. Halen used to address, we used to introduce him. He'd come up to the platform, on the platform, and introduce Swamiji to the audience, and then go down and take a seat. And it was at this lecture that he's standing beside Swamiji. He suddenly felt like he was this tiny little pygmy standing beside this giant. And he felt most embarrassed to be standing next to him. And ever after that, Mr. Halen would introduce Swamiji standing on the floor of the hall, not on the platform next to him. He didn't feel that he could put himself right next to Swamiji on the platform. So Swamiji, of course, was in an exalted state of consciousness in all the time, and especially in Northern California in 1900. It really seemed to, he was really in that eternal now. He was the eternal now, the witness of all phenomena. And for instance, when he arrived in Alameda in April of 1900, that was actually after this, just a few weeks after this, he went over to Alameda across the bay, and Mr. Halen jovially greeted him with, well, Swami, I see you are in Alameda. And Swamiji gravely replied, no, Mr. Halen, I am not in Alameda. Alameda is in me. Yes, he was not identified with it. From our standpoint, Swamiji was late to that lecture. He was 45 minutes late. From our standpoint, Swamiji was in Alameda, but he was not identified with this body as we are. He was identified with, he knew himself to be the eternal now, the witness in which all these phenomena are arising. It is time and space which arise in consciousness and not the other way around. So he could say, identified as he was with the self, all time is mine. People would, his friends and disciples would complain. Another devotee was afraid they were going to miss a steamer, and because he wouldn't hurry. And so she complained, Swami, you have no idea of time. He replied calmly, no, you live in time. We live in eternity. So that's a little taste of Swamiji calling all time his own. He was the owner of every day and of every moment of every day. And he was also the owner of all that he surveyed. When he would walk in the streets in New York, it was told that he was walking like a king surveying his own kingdom. He was a poor beggar owning nothing, and yet walking as if he owns everything. Because he's not identified with this body, which owns a few rags of cloth and a few coins and a few chunks of metal. He is that in which all this arises. So let's see, is it practical? How can we get a taste of this? How do we move forward on this? And of course, we almost like to turn to Buddhism a little bit right now, because this practice of what most Buddhist teachers call mindfulness, or I've also heard it called heartfulness, to be present, to attend to the right now, the right here and right now, what's happening right here, right now. And a wonderful way to do that is simply to watch one's breath, to notice one's breath. Maybe we can try it for a moment. We can just breathe in slowly and breathe out and watch the breath and notice it's flowing in. And it's flowing out. And thoughts come and they go. And we just watch the breath. Here, now. I think what this does is it breaks our habit of always thinking about the future, thinking about the past. Allows us to attend to this moment. And we start to realize, we start to feel that we are noticing all these things. There's also an awareness which is aware of the breathing, an awareness which is aware of the thoughts, but which is not the thoughts, which is not the breathing. A famous book on Buddhist meditation is called The Miracle of Mindfulness. It is a miracle. If we can attend to this very moment, how miraculous. The glory of awareness. The miracle of being conscious right now, not dragged into the future or dragged back by the past. To be awake right now is wonderful. It's such a gift. We start to disidentify ourselves with all those, with the breath and with all those thoughts, and remain as that awareness. The power of breath is wonderful. It's a wonderful tool to slow our minds down and to just watch it and let the thoughts subside. It's really perfectly in accord with Vedanta. Vedanta will just add a little something. That is the watcher. We disidentify ourselves with that which we are not, and identify ourselves with that consciousness in which the awareness of breathing arises, in which the awareness of a thought arises, in which the awareness of a sensation arises. That consciousness is our true nature. And when that happens, when the thoughts slow down, when the thoughts stop, actually time also stops. Because we mark time by succession of thoughts and succession of experiences. Swami Vivekananda puts it this way in Raja Yoga. He describes how. How do we know when the mind has become concentrated? In other words, the thoughts have stopped, or only one thought holds the mind without a succession, because the idea of time will vanish. He points out how when we're reading a book and we get fully absorbed in it, we don't notice the passage of time. Time has stopped for that period. All time will have the tendency to come and stand in the one present. So when the definition is given, when the past and present come and stand in one, the mind is said to be concentrated. Now, with the Vedantic background, we can take it to a slightly different direction, which is the devotional direction, because that consciousness in which we find everything arises is none other than the divine, than our beloved when we are devotees. And so we can easily take this also as the practice of the presence of the divine, the practice of the presence of God. Brother Lawrence, the wonderful French monk of hundreds of years ago, whose few records of his life of practicing the presence of God inspire us even today. Let me read just a little bit of Brother Lawrence's instruction for how to own the day. During our work and other activities, even during our reading and writing, no matter how spiritual, and even during our religious exercises and vocal prayers, we must stop for a moment, as often as possible, to adore God in the depths of our heart, to savor Him. Since you are aware that God is present to you during your actions, that He is in the depths and center of your heart, stop your activities and even your vocal prayers, at least from time to time, to adore Him within, to praise Him, to ask His help, to offer Him your heart, and to thank Him. This is a wonderful practice. The practice of the presence of God. The divine is here right now within me. And every step I take, I am taking within the divine. How to invoke that? We have to do practice. It's not going to come just by hearing about it. It comes by practicing it. And it's a great help to practice meditation every day, twice a day. When we do that, we invoke the presence of the divine in our hearts. When we repeat the divine name, we are doing that. We are invoking the experience of the divine, which is always here. We are calling that divinity to manifest, and we begin to feel it. And as we go on repeating that holy name, the mantra, we begin to feel that, yes, the divine is here. I am in the divine. And every moment is being passed within that luminous radiance which is the divine. So on the one hand, we have this practice of mindfulness. On the other, we have the practice of continual repetition of the name. One thought takes over, and we become continually aware of the divine. As if life weren't fast enough in 1857 or in 1897 when Swami Vivekananda would say about the West, this indecent hurry. I think now it's become even more indecent, the hurry that we're subjected to. And how do we slow down? It's a hurry, and then along with hurry comes worry. Hurry and worry, they're two sides of the same coin, the hurry-worry syndrome of the present, of modern life. And it's unlinked from the natural rhythms of the day, and has become linked to the rhythm of the microchip, isn't it? The rhythm of the microchips that are in almost all of our pockets, I think. This hurry. Let's just turn to another story of Swami Vivekananda. It was April 24th, 1900, and he was on his way with Mrs. Alice Hansbrough to Camp Taylor, which is, at those days there was no bridge, no Golden Gate Bridge. He was in San Francisco, or Alameda rather, so they have to cross, I believe, over to, they have to catch a ferry to San Francisco, and then from there a second ferry to Sausalito to get to Camp Taylor. And so they missed the first train to the Alameda Mole, which is where you can get the ferry over to San Francisco. But then someone said, well, there's another train just on another line, just close by here. You can catch that one. So they go over to this second train. And as they got there, Mrs. Hansbrough recalls, the train was just getting underway. So it was just starting to move. And Alice Hansbrough, she says, I called to the conductor on the back platform. On the caboose, there's a conductor there. And she called out to him, who called back, if you run, I'll wait for you. I looked at Swamiji. He simply said, I will not run. So they had to go back. They had to go back home, and it ended up they waited a whole week before they went to Camp Taylor. Swamiji would not run. It seems crazy to us, you know. He's going to Camp Taylor. He's going to spend a week there in retreat, and he couldn't run a few yards to catch the train. No, he's not going to run. He's not going to hurry. All time is his. What does it matter if he's in Camp Taylor or in Alameda or anywhere else? All time is his. So how do we slow down? How do we cultivate? You know, Swamiji would always say, if I have to catch a train, Swamiji would say, isn't there another? Isn't there another train? The thing is, we get this strong idea that we have to do certain things, and we have to finish them, and we have so many things we have to do, and we have to finish. And we forget that the purpose of life is not to do stuff. The purpose of life is not to complete things. The purpose of life is not to get that degree and make that money and buy that house. No, it's none of those things is the purpose of life. Purpose of life is to know who we are. The purpose of life is to experience the divine directly. The purpose of life is to own the day. And we can only do that right here and right now. So whether we're on the train to the Alameda Mole or not, it doesn't matter. If we miss it, we don't. If we're not going to run, well, we're not going to let ourselves get hurried. At least Swami Vivekananda is not going to let himself get hurried. Though he could move with tremendous efficiency when needed. He was talking with another devotee who, the first meeting, they were talking in the living room, and it went 15 minutes over the start of the class that was being held in the parlor. They were talking in the bedroom, rather, and the class in the parlor and students had assembled, and finally Mrs. Hansbrough comes in and says, Swamiji, it's 15 minutes late, you got to start. Oh, excuse me, let's start the class. Swamiji, meanwhile, he was sitting with his hair uncombed and in a bathrobe. And so this student walks around and walks into the parlor, and Swamiji walks in, his hair perfectly combed, wearing his robes. How did he do it? So when needed, he could be tremendously efficient. But it wasn't hurry. It was simply with when we have full concentration and mastery over all our organs and all our senses, we can move with tremendous efficiency when we need to. Let me touch on a few little hints about slowing down, taking our time. And these are from a wonderful book by Eknath Easwaran called Take Your Time. The whole book is called Take Your Time. It's a wonderful book. And he suggests, first of all, to avoid this hurry problem, give yourself a little more time. Get up half an hour earlier. Leave for work 10 minutes early so that you get there early, so you don't arrive right at 9 o'clock and you're rushing and don't have time to say hi to anyone. Get there a little early and say hi to your colleagues. After all, that's a wonderful way to greet the divine, shining in our colleagues. And don't crowd your day. Don't try to do too much in one day. We think, well, I can do it. I just hurry. I can do one more thing. Why hurry? All right, drop one or two things. What does it matter? We have to choose wisely. Choose wisely what we are going to do. We can't do everything. We can't know everything. We can't read everything. So we have to choose one thing at a time. He points out that a lot of times we try to fill our children's lives with so much stuff. There's the dance, and there's swimming, and there's horseback riding, and there's music lessons, and there's singing lessons, and there's karate, and there's clay, there's pottery making, and soccer, and parents spend a whole afternoon shuttling their kids from one thing to another because they ought not to be deprived of anything. But it seems like they're being deprived of one of the most precious, the precious things is the time just to be, and the time just to play, and the time and the gift of just the attention of their parents. That's the real deprivation, when kids are deprived of their parents' love and attention. So he suggests that we ask what is important and make a list of all the things that we have to do every day and cross off the ones that are not important. And we can cross off probably a third of them at least. And probably nobody will notice that we're no longer showing up to that Friday afternoon meeting. This daily trifles of life, they can really hold us back. A powerful passage in an article written by one of our monks. He writes, just as an elephant is held back by a small goad, a large number of people are prevented from going up in spiritual life by their endless interest in trifles. We're interested in all the little things, and let me read that one more little worthless article on, that comes up on your feed, whatever it is. Endless interest in trifles. The daily routine of life absorbs all their attention, while their imprisoned souls watch tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, moving away from them, never to return. A couple more suggestions from Ishwaran. Take time for relationships. Relationships need time. Take time for reflection. Daily meditation. And don't let yourself get hurried. Don't let yourself get hurried. Swamiji used to love to tell the story of Vidyasagar, the great Bengali scholar and philanthropist, who was walking one day and he saw a Muslim landlord walking with his tremendous gait of a landlord, walking slowly and majestically. And presently a servant from home came running up and said, Sir, your house is on fire. And without changing his gait in the least or making any expression of any kind, he continued to walk with that same leisurely, kind of regal gait. And after a few moments, the servant dared to say, Sir, aren't you going to hurry a little bit? Expressing astonishment that he's not walking a little faster. And he said, What, you wretch? Do you mean to say that I should abandon the gait of my ancestors because a few sticks are burning? A few sticks are burning. What is that? I am a landlord in this case, but I am the self. I am the witness consciousness. Why should I worry about all these things? Slowing down the mind. We talked about that. Breathing, meditation, practicing the presence of God, the mantra. Thoughts of anger and fear are fast. Tranquility is slow. And doing one thing at a time. Doing one thing at a time. We're called on to do multitasking now. And of course we do it to a certain extent. Maybe impossible to completely avoid it, but the more we can do one thing and put our whole attention on it, the better we'll do that one thing. Because the mind can't actually do two things at once. It has to jump back and forth between them. It's a common teaching of the Zen Buddhists, they say, when you sit, sit. When you eat, eat. When you walk, walk. Do just that. And there's a wonderful freedom in that. So the one Zen master, Korean Zen master, whose name is, I forget, Sang Sunim or something. He was always teaching his students, when you eat, eat. When you read, read, like that. And one day, one of his students came in and caught him at the table, eating and reading. He was eating and reading. But Roshi, Zen master, I guess he was a Roshi. Roshi, that's a Japanese term. I guess he's Korean, so some other term. Master, you always teach us when you eat, eat. When you read, read. What are you doing? Upset. And he simply said, when you eat and read, eat and read. So for a Zen master, it's quite all right. And we can also do it. But to do one thing, to do it with our full attention, it brings great freedom. Because we're not thinking, I want to finish this thing. I have to finish doing these dishes and then I'll be all right. Right now we're all right. While we're doing the dishes, God is right here, right now. I am that infinite witness which is watching these dishes get washed. Okay, we're running out of time, but it doesn't. At the same time, here we are, right now. So maybe it doesn't matter if I talk for another half an hour. One thing that I think that comes automatically as we begin to slow down and awaken to the glory of this present moment is an attitude of gratitude. As we realize the wonder of right now, that I'm grateful that I can do these dishes with attention and feel the glory of my own soul at the same time, feel the glory of myself. And a attitude of gratitude for everything. This is a challenge, because some things happen and we're glad about them. Some things we may be neutral, and some things are difficult. Another problem with this boss or insubordination from the subordinates at work, or all these things. Another problem. Can we be grateful for those too? They're an opportunity for us to own this moment while we work with this problem. Because the goal of life is not to solve problems. The goal of life is to manifest our divinity. So we can this attitude of gratitude for everything we are given, even the problems, which are just opportunities. And we can call on divine assistance and who feel gratitude for the opportunity to learn through addressing this problem, through working through this problem. How wonderful. And then this higher gratitude is really the gratitude that arises naturally from this experience of our own divinity, this miracle of our own existence. Is naturally we feel gratitude. Well, let's close with a quote. There's another quote from Emerson. It's really a kind of instruction on how to live, how to do karma yoga. He's writing a letter to his daughter. And he writes, "Finish every day and be done with it. For manners and for wise living, it is a vice to remember. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. You shall begin it well and serenely, and with too high a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense. This day for all that is good and fair. It is too dear, with its hopes and invitations, to waste a moment on rotten yesterdays." Let us not waste a moment on rotten yesterdays. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, the dead never return, the past night does not reappear. A spent tidal wave does not rise anew, neither does man inhabit the same body over again. So, from the worship of the dead past, O man, O woman, we invite you to the worship of the living present. From the regretful brooding over bygones, we invite you to the activities of the present. From the waste of energy in retracing lost and demolished pathways, we call you back to broad, new-laid highways lying very near. He or she that is wise, let her understand. Let him understand. So let us dwell in this worship of the living present. The glory of the eternal now is my prayer. Om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma mritangamaya Aviravirma edhi Rudrayate dakshinam mukham Tena mam pahi nityam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us unto light. From death, lead us to immortality. From dwelling in the past and the future, lead us to the present moment. Reach us through and through ourself, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. Om, peace, peace, peace.